Hi, today will be the medical talk number 8. It will be an introduction to the kidney function. So before we know about the kidney, we have to understand about body fluids. So all of it will be physiology. Physiology means how the body works. So the first question we want to ask is how much water should we drink? Okay. So the fluid added to the body is highly variable and it must be equally matched with an equal output. Otherwise, if the output and the input, if the input is too much and the output is too little, the blood will increase and then the high blood pressure, you have high blood pressure and then all the organs will fail, right, will be damaged. So you need to balance the input and output. So the body has a mechanism to do it. It will be learned later when we study about the kidney. We normally take in 2.3 liters of water. This is US taking 2.3, but Malaysia should be higher lah because here very hot we sweat a lot and then we eat a lot of salt and sugar, so we should be drinking more water. And it will be much more it can be sometimes 6 liters of water if we exercise. And our skin and breathing evaporation is already 700 milliliters a day. So some people, their urine can be very little, only 0.5 liters, because they drink very little water, or some can be very high, 20 liters of water, 20 liters of urine. So if the person is awake 10 hours, every half an hour he goes to toilet. Yeah. So adult man is 60% weight in water. Women is 50% because women got more body fat. 67% of water is inside the cells. Inside the water inside the cells, we call it intracellular fluid, ICF. Okay. And we find that the concentration of fluid in all types of cells is remarkably similar. Okay, so inside the cells, the intracellular fluid inside many different type of cells also is almost the same type. It's almost the same concentration. And all fluids outside the cell, we call it ECF, extracellular fluid. So we got in a man, there is about 14 liters of extracellular fluid in a 70 kilo man. Yeah. So extracellular fluid is water. Okay, they call it water, they don't call it blood because it is water. Okay, there is no red blood cells, there is no cells inside. Interstitial fluid is in tissues. So ECF can be divided into interstitial fluid, which is in the tissues, or plasma in the blood. So ECF can be interstitial fluid 11 liters or plasma 3 liters. Yeah, plasma is the blood. Okay, everything in the blood minus all the cells, the red blood cells. So when we do blood transfusion, sometimes it's not blood transfusion, sometimes it's just like when you go to war zone, they don't want to put in the blood, they just take the plasma only. Yeah, and do what lah. So plasma is continuously exchanging substances. Yeah, so when we drink water, it goes to the plasma first, right? Then only it goes inside the interstitial fluid, and then it goes inside the intracellular fluid. But from the plasma, it has to go through something called a capillary membrane. Yeah, so on the right hand side, you can see the membrane capillary, the capillaries here. Yeah, they are very small. This capillary will allow water and everything to go through, but only protein cannot go through. So the protein is like red blood cells. Red blood cells is a protein, so they cannot go through this capillary. Yeah. So we have about 5 liters of blood lah. So like I say, when you drink water, it moves across the capillary membrane from the extracellular to the intracellular. So water moves very quickly. Okay, when we drink water, it takes around 30 minutes for the whole body to absorb the whole water. From it goes into the stomach, and then goes to the intestine, the small intestine. Small intestine will absorb all the water. Then it goes to the blood, then it goes to the ECF, right? Then it goes into the cells. So one principle to learn is osmosis, the first principle. So osmosis basically says ions from high concentration want to move to low concentration. Okay, I think this one from 4 got learn osmosis. So pure water, sometimes we think pure water is good drink a lot of water, but it's actually bad for the cells. Too much water is bad because it is hypotonic. What will happen is if there is too much water, because inside the cells there is a lot of ions, so the cell will have a higher concentration, will have a lower concentration of water because inside the cell is a lot of ions plus water. So what happens is water will flow inside the cell, yeah, and then the cell will, you want to reach equilibrium, so the cell will grow bigger and bigger, and then the cell will die. Okay, so too much water and then it will cause the cell to swell. Hypertonic is too hypertonic is different. Hypertonic means the water will flow out of the cells and shrink. Yeah, so hypertonic is too much salt too much ions in the, too much solutions in the water, then the cell will shrink. So you ask me which one is better, both also hypotonic and hypertonic cannot. We want isotonic. That's why 100 plus they call it isotonic drink. When you go for sports, they drink isotonic, they don't drink water, okay, because they need the salt, they need the sugar in the water to maintain a proper concentration so that it has the same osmolarity as the cells. Okay, this is slide number 4. So like sometimes IV drip, some people they get dehydration, so they go to hospital, they go for IV drip, or some people in coma, they need nutrition. So normally they won't give you just water, the IV inside got glucose. Why they put glucose is not to give you sugar for fun. Okay, they need to give you glucose to maintain the osmolarity so that the cells do not burst. Yeah, this is to treat dehydration. And how to measure, you ask how to measure osmolarity, how do you know your body is in balance or not? So the way is to test sodium, because sodium accounts for 90% of the solutions in the extracellular fluid. So if we test sodium, then we know basically are we too high or too low. If it's too low, then we call it hyponatremia. If it's too high, it's hypernatremia. Hyper and hypo. Yeah, natremia means Na Na is the chemical for sodium. So drinking 2 liter water, or sometimes we got too much ADH hormone, which increase water also can cause problem So don't drink too much water also Okay, and hyponatremia will cause, like I say, the cell will swell, so it's bad for the brain. In very serious cases, they can go into coma, they can get brain damage, they can die. Because the brain cannot grow more than 10%, because the skull, right, the skull, the skeleton in the head cannot expand anymore. So the brain will be damaged if the brain grow too big. You get brain injury So sometimes you cannot also drink too much water to correct the situation, because if the brain is very big and then you try to make it small again, then the brain also will get injured. So you have to slowly correct it Yeah, so 10 to 15 to 25% of the patients in hospital have this hyponatremia condition. Yeah, hyponatremia means too little salt basically. Now what is hypernatremia? Too much salt, then it causes cell shrinkage. This is common in diabetes, because diabetes is not to say they have too much salt, but because they have too much sugar, right? So somehow the kidney, when you got a lot of sugar in the kidney wants to flush out the sugar, so but it cannot flush out all the sugar, so a lot of salt also they cannot flush out, so you got too much salt and too much sugar in diabetes patients. Yeah, so and is link one is link because yeah. So edema, okay, now we cover a new concept called edema lah. Edema means there's too much water in the body. Sometimes it can cause by heart failure, because when the heart got problem, then there's too much ADH hormone. So there's too much your ADH hormone will cause reabsorption of water. Or sometimes it's because the kidneys not removing enough salt. So salt and water in blood and interstitial fluid. Yeah. So edema is just a symptom, okay? It's not a disease. It is a symptom caused because of imbalance of the electrolytes in the body. Okay, so normally is in the extracellular fluid, but it can also involve the intracellular fluid. If it involves intracellular fluid, then it's very dangerous because the cells can injure. So for example, in ICF related edema, the whole tissue can die. So sometimes the leg swell to the leg become 2 or 3 times bigger than normal. Yeah, because too much water in the cell. So it will block the blood. So the whole leg got no blood inside. No oxygen. No blood means no oxygen. Right. So the tissue in the leg can die. Yeah. But edema only happens if it's very serious condition. If you got very serious abnormality, because the lymph flow, the lymph is the system, there's a separate system. It can increase 10 to 50 times to return the ICF to the blood. So if the lymph is not working, then only you got edema. Means very serious already lah if you got edema. So in conclusion, we learn about fluid intake and regulation. Yeah, how body manages the outflow and the inflow. What is the fluid and the blood in the body. We learn about osmosis. We learn about the problems with osmotic imbalance. We learn about hypernatremia. Too much salt also cannot, too little salt also cannot. Yeah, same with sugar. And we learn edema. Edema is a symptom. And how is this complicated? Actually, this is not too difficult to understand. Okay, this is quite one of the easiest topics to cover. Yeah, but very important nonetheless. And this is I will cover about the kidney in the next session. Okay, thank you. Bye.